So we're going to begin at the bottom of the foot, and remember, blood flows towards the heart through the veins. So in the case of the lower limbs, it's always going to be from the feet up, so we're starting at the beginning in a way. And the aspect of the foot that we're going to be looking at is also called the plantar aspect, which you can see in this image. And just note that the images we'll be looking at will mainly be the right foot, so this side will be our medial side, and this side will be our lateral side. So in this image, we can see the plantar metatarsal veins and arteries, which are on the sole of the foot. And the plantar metatarsal veins run along with the arteries here, which you can see in red. The plantar metatarsal veins arise from the plantar digital veins of the toes and communicate with the veins of the dorsum or the top of the foot. The plantar metatarsal veins run medially within the intermetatarsal spaces, which you can see outlined in blue in this image. And they're also running medial to the artery. The veins then continue onwards to form the deep plantar venous arch, which we see here. And note that the medial and lateral plantar veins arise from this arch. So let's continue to the veins found on the dorsal or the top surface of the foot. And we can see the dorsal metatarsal veins in this image just here. And these veins drain the metatarsals on the superior surface of the foot, which are highlighted in blue. The dorsal metatarsal veins arise from the dorsal digital veins of the toes and help form the dorsal venous arch.
The next veins we're going to be looking at are the fibular veins.
And this is a paired vein that accompanies the fibular artery, which we can see here along the posterolateral region of the leg and medial to the posterior aspect of the fibula, which is this bone just here. And these veins receive tributaries from the veins that drain the soleus muscle on the back of the leg and from the superficial veins of this part of the body. The posterior tibial veins are also deep veins of the leg that are formed by the medial and lateral plantar veins, which we mentioned earlier, that emerge from the plantar venous arch. The posterior tibial veins accompany the posterior tibial artery, posterior to the tibia, as you would guess, and they receive tributaries from the veins of the calf muscles, some superficial veins, and from the fibular veins. The next deep veins we see here are the anterior tibial veins, also located in the leg, but anterior to the tibia. They are formed by the venae commitantes of the dorsalis pedis artery. In other words, the anterior tibial veins are formed by the veins that accompany the dorsalis pedis artery of the top of the foot. And the anterior tibial veins drain into the popliteal vein, which we'll look at next. Here we see the popliteal vein, which is located behind the knee within the popliteal fossa. And the popliteal vein receives many tributaries from veins corresponding to the popliteal artery, including the small saphenous vein and 2 veins from each head of the gastrocnemius muscle. In addition, it also receives the sural veins and the genicular veins. This vein sits between the 2 heads of the gastrocnemius muscle, and the vein also pierces the adductor magnus muscle, travelling superiorly. And at this point, it becomes the femoral vein, which we'll look at next. And the femoral vein begins at the opening of the adductor magnus muscle, as you can see in this image here, and ends as the external iliac vein, posterior to the inguinal ligament here. As we mentioned before, the femoral vein is the continuation of the popliteal vein of the leg. This large, deep vein receives many tributaries from the medial and lateral circumflex femoral veins, the great saphenous vein, and from the deep femoral vein. As I mentioned earlier, the deep veins of the lower limb usually accompany the corresponding arteries, and the femoral and deep femoral veins accompany the femoral and deep femoral arteries respectively.
If you found this quick anatomy or physiology video helpful, you'll enjoy our video tutorials even more. Click on the button and you'll see what I mean. We have hundreds of videos available to our premium members, not to mention all the fun quizzes, complete articles, and atlas sections to solidify your knowledge. Click on the button in the middle to watch the full-length video and master anatomy and physiology.